And voila, we are recording.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So, welcome. We are here today to talk about our updated folder structure. It's a project that's been in the works for quite some time. I think we first talked about it during last year's retreat with Alicia, which is last February. So, a lot of things have happened since then. We've implemented FileVine, so this was kind of like our next big project. So our updated folder structure is going to be implemented beginning June 1st. So this training is just to review the updates, review the agreements surrounding the new folder structure, and then we're leaving a lot of time open for questions at the end, so folks can just let us know if anything is unclear. And so basically, I know a lot of you have met with members of the team for this project. We've asked for your input. Ariel, Joanna, Dave, and I have been working on this, and I know Mariela contributed a lot. So thank you to Mariela for all her thoughts on behalf of the paralegals. At one point, we also thought maybe we would have the same structure as Silver Spring, but in the end, Silver Spring decided they made some updates to their folder structure. Those work better for their types of cases. We're going to go with ours. And so we also came up with some agreements surrounding how we're going to handle cases that are joint with Silver Spring. So our goal with this whole project is to ensure consistency across the folders and all our client cases, make sure things are organized and more efficient. Right now, I know it can be hard to find documents or to know exactly where they go. So we're hoping to clear some of that up with these updates. So that's just our little introduction. Now I will pass it over to Ariel so you can see what we've actually come up with.
Thank you, Gianna. So Joanna's putting on the screen our updated folder structure. And so there are three main tiers, and I'm just going to go through the key highlights. A lot has stayed the same, but there are a few main differences. So the first tier is not going to apply to us in most cases. It's there in case we have a client that has an overarching company involved. Usually that will only happen when we're working on a joint case with Silver Spring. So you typically won't have to deal with that. Instead, your case will start at the individual client level. And that's the same as we've had before with the client's name. Now what's changed is there'll be an overarching folder with the client name, and then there'll be separate project folders for each case type. So for instance, if a client has an Interpol case, they also have an asylum case, there would be two folders in there in addition to the four you see with agreements, FOIA, incoming docs, and emails. Now, a point about incoming docs, that's brand new for us, and that's something that was brought about through conversations with the team. So we get a lot of documents from clients, and we want to make sure that we have them for all future projects, not just the instant project. So the idea is that all documents you get from clients go right in there into incoming docs. They're saved there, they're labeled according to our file naming conventions. It's easy to access them. So if a client sends you a passport, from 2 years ago, it's there. But when you then use the documents for a certain project as part of like an exhibit package, the paralegal would save a copy of that document into the evidence folder for that specific project. But the original will stay in the incoming doc. So then, a year after the asylum filing, when they're coming for adjustment, assuming we still have adjustment of status, but if they're coming for an adjustment case, you don't have to go into the individual project. You can just go into the incoming documents and you have everything right there that you would need for the future project type. So that's the idea, but the only way it's going to work is if we keep the documents organized and we don't delete the original copy in the incoming documents when we save to the project. Then in the project type, we also have a new folder called outgoing client correspondence. And we've also renamed government correspondence to official correspondence. The second change was because we're sending out official correspondence that's not just going to the US government, for instance, our international filings or, our Interpol filings. So that's what official correspondence is for. Outgoing client correspondence is when, we send those nice memos to clients that are in final form. That would be saved there. Research we send to the clients, that will all be saved there, and client closing letters. Basically anything that's client facing and in final form gets saved there. Everything else is pretty much the same, right? Research and notes, evidence, drafts, billing, all specific to the projects. And we have listed on each folder examples of what can be included there. And Patrick and Gianna, I see questions. Gianna, I'm gonna say you first just because you're co-lead.
Thanks, Ariel. It's more of a comment because can we go up just a little bit to the second? Yeah. Okay. So some of you may have seen a version of this that had deleted the emails folder, and we originally thought that emails would just be sent to Filevine so we could get rid of that folder. But we keep seeing that some emails are being saved as like a document in Filevine. So in order to clean up the Filevine folders, if that happens, you would just move it over to this emails folder. So you don't have to save like a copy of every email if you're already forwarding it to Filevine. This is just for those like stray ones that for some reason are being saved as a separate file.
Thank you, Gianna. Very important. And Patrick?
I was just wondering whether we or you guys thought about and decided against this, perhaps, like in having, the outgoing client correspondence folder will not include all of the emails that are directed to the client. Those go elsewhere. I take it that's sort of deliberate, and we don't want to set up some sort of like fast-paced sort of automatic system where whenever we send an email to the client, it auto-populates in the outgoing correspondence folder, but instead it gets stored with the emails.
Right now, yes, it's stored in the emails. We just didn't want to create a system where sometimes you have half of the document saved in one folder and half in another. And when you're trying to get a full capture of what has been done in the case, you have to jump to different folders. But I mean, I would ask the rest of the team, but I think if there's a specific email, like if you're advising on something really like monumental, like the AOS changes, and you want to make sure you have a copy easily accessible, you could save an additional copy in outgoing client correspondence.
Thank you.
And just following up on Gianna's point, we do have a research and notes folder still, and I know we'd had conversations as well because Filevine captures notes. We're going to put in research and notes specifically like consultation notes, longer legal research notes, country conditions notes, etc. And we have to see when we start archiving cases how the notes are saved from Filevine and how will be best to route those so that they are saved. Everything will continue to be saved. That's just a question on the back end when we're working on cases, but continue to use the activity and notes tab in Filevine as you're working on a case. Okay, that's my broad overview. I want to save time for questions at the end, so I'm going to pass it over to Gianna for our rules.
Okay. Joanna, could you pull up the agreements, please?
Yes, one moment.
Thank you.
Gianna, I have some questions on just the structure.
Yeah.
So I want to clarify. So right now, the way it is in Filevine, we have projects per case type, but we're gonna kind of revert back to how it was in the J drive, where the projects will be the client, and then under the projects we'll have folders for the project type. If that makes sense.
I think go up because the client name will go at the top, and then it'll be project name. So if they have different matter types, then those would have their own folder. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the cases that we have right now in Filevine, though, they're like the case type. So
Mm-hmm.
It'll basically be the structure that we had in J Drive, right?
Yeah, but I'm not seeing, so let's see. So if a client has 2 cases, what would that look like now in FileVine?
As of June 1st, right?
Yeah, so are you saying it would
It would
look,
be like the project name would be the client's name, and then they would have folders under the document section for each of the projects.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question I had was for FOIAs, are we saving like all the drafts and like cover letters and all those documents under there as well?
Those would
Or
go under drafts. And then, so just the final filed FOIAs go under the FOIA folder. And the responses and the charts. But, and like, while you're working on the FOIA, it would just go under drafts.
okay. And then, oh, for client correspondence, would we also want to save like, I don't know, just the document checklist that we send in the beginning of a case as well there?
Yeah,
If so, I
I
don't know,
think
maybe
that's a
we
good
list
idea.
it out on the chart.
Yeah, we can add it to the chart. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, that was it.
Right. Okay, and there will be a process for like reviewing or like making changes to the folders, like if something's not working out. So this is kind of a living document similar to FileVine. We can always make adjustments. Okay, Joanna, could you make it a little bigger? Perfect. Okay, so these are our rules of engagement for the folder project. Like I said, these changes are going to be implemented for cases that are opened on or after June 1st. So we won't be going back and changing the folder structure for our older cases because that would take a very long time and I think we'd never get caught up. So this is just forward looking. And then, so in terms of maintaining the folders, please try not to create any additional subfolders. You know, in some cases that are very complicated, maybe that makes sense. So just check with the supervising attorney or partner if that's something you think is helpful in a case. I think like Cabeza de Vaca, we had tons and tons of documents, so it was helpful for that case. But for most cases, just try to stick to the structure as it exists. And then when a case is open, we ask that the case paralegal rename all the documents according to our file naming convention. So that's linked there. So basically, once the case is open, there might be some documents already in the folder from the consult. So those are the documents you'd be initially organizing and renaming. And then as documents are coming in, we ask that the case paralegal save them within 48 hours of receipt and name them appropriately according to our naming convention. And then this is something new we implemented because we know that the FileVine folders have been a little bit messy and there's not really a set time where paralegals are going in to organize them, or maybe it's if, you know, the attorney asked you to do it. But now we're asking that every second and fourth Friday of every month that paralegals make time to review their case folders and organize them, check for any stray documents, check for duplicates, delete any duplicates, just make sure that it is a duplicate. If you have questions, ask the attorneys on the case. But we think having that consistent period of time would be helpful. So feel free to mark your calendars. I know the paralegals meet, I think it's every Friday. So maybe if you want to set time before or after that meeting, that might be the best way to find the time. But we do ask that you do that every second and fourth Friday of the month just to keep the folders clean. Okay, and then there's some separate rules of engagement for ops. When a case is opened, the EA will create all the relevant folders per the folder structure and then move any documents and consult notes to the appropriate folder. So consult documents should go to client docs, and then the consult notes go to research and notes. And then we know there's also the problem of all of the stray invoices. So another other ops rule of engagement is that on a monthly basis, the billing department will save invoices in the billing folder. So go in and clean this up once a month so that we don't have all these invoices getting saved in the folder. And then when the case is closed, the client experience coordinator, Gabby, will archive the matter and save a backup of all the folders to SharePoint OneDrive. That's once we have SharePoint OneDrive activated. And that, you know, that's a whole other process. Joanna will be in touch with us as to that. But that's as soon as we get that going. If the client returns and we open a new matter for them, the folder is then moved back into FileVine, and ops would do that. Any questions about the maintaining client folders rules of engagement or the ops rules of engagement before I pass to Dave? And I haven't been checking the chat. Go ahead, Sarah. Oh, you're on mute. No, I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on. Do you want to put it in the chat?
Sarah, do you want to just come into my office and say it, Sarah?
Sorry,
Gonna
Sarah.
say,
No, we can't hear you. Okay, I think she's going to Patrick. Any questions while we wait for Sarah to run into Patrick's office? Oh, that was quick. Oh, you're muted
Oh,
now,
wait.
Patrick.
Can you hear us?
Now we can hear you. Well, I can't hear
God,
Sarah.
I feel so old.
Okay, there you go.
For the first point where it says do not create additional
Yeah.
subfolders.
Yeah.
In the past, maybe for an application where there were many different buckets of evidence, for example, someone's medical documents or someone's children's identity documents that need to be included, I might create subfolders under those.
Yeah, I
Is
could see
this
a world
first
where,
point
like, in
saying
the
now,
evidence
like-
folder, you're doing that. Yeah, but just check with the attorney to make sure. I mean, that makes sense. We just want it to, for the most part, stick to the existing structure.
Okay.
So that would
Got
be an
it.
extenuating circumstance.
I think it would. Yeah, I think that qualifies.
Okay. I'm sorry.
and Gianna would exercise administrative grace
Yes,
in that next.
I would
Right.
exercise my discretion.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? This? No? Okay, I'm gonna pass it to Dave, who's gonna discuss how we're gonna manage cases that are joint with Silver Spring.
I can get off mute. All right. So in terms of figuring out how to do this, I had an experience where we worked with Silver Spring paralegals on a couple of cases. They were fast moving marriage-based adjustment cases. And in those cases, we were trying to figure out, because obviously they don't have access to FileVine, whereas they do have access to the J drive. So what we did is we created a system where they're being saved in both. Yeah, I hear an echo as well, Lori. Hello? That's on my end?
Now it seems fine.
Yeah, it
Okay,
seems
good.
fine now. Keep going.
All right, so the process that we're going to have established is the ops team. Essentially, the documents will live on the J drive, but the ops team will open a FileVine matter for our timekeeping, and then we'll make sure that everything is appropriately tagged in FileVine. That gives us the record for if the case continues on into the future, it's not sort of lost or marooned over the J drive. And client documents must be saved on both the J and the FileVine in order to ensure that we have complete files for both, and either side of the practice can access them. The paralegal that was responsible will be saving the documents to FileVine on our side, and then the paralegal will work with the Silver Spring paralegal to ensure that any documents are forwarded to them so that we have complete copies in full access. All client emails will be saved in FileVine, and in the normal way that we do it, either attaching the email or sending the email via FileVine. And the billing office's structure will be used. So if the case is billed by DC, we'll have the DC structure. If it's billed by Silver Spring, we'll have their structure. And if there are multiple matters for the same client, which we don't anticipate too many of those, each office will apply its own folder structure to its responsive or respective matter. Yeah, and I agree with that, Sandra.
Okay, great. Any questions about joint cases? No? Okay, so the last rules of engagement, well, this is just basically explaining that we are going to review any feedback that folks submit twice a year, and you can submit your feedback on the folder structure project. There's a link right there, and it takes you to a little survey. You can input your thoughts or suggestions there. We'll be reviewing it and implementing any changes. And we may have future training sessions if we make changes or if anything is unclear. So if you have thoughts, feel free to share with any of us on the team and or use this survey. And thank you to Edwin for making the rules of engagement pretty for me and putting them in the little boxes. Okay, questions, anyone? We're hoping it's pretty straightforward, but I think, you know, as you're using it, just let us know and submit your feedback.
So
And-
this might be a silly question. So then moving forward, you said starting in the beginning of June,
June 1st. Yeah.
when ops opens a case, these will be the existing folders in the case.
Exactly.
I am wondering if, because I know you said it doesn't apply to cases already open.
Yeah.
If we have, can I ask Lori, Joanna, if we have a few cases that we are like super actively working on, but they're cluttered with invoices, maybe we can make some exceptions because it's like Cabeza de Vaca. It's hard to find documents because there's so much billing stuff. Anyways, that's my request.
Well, I
don't know.
think that part of the rules of engagement should apply to all cases. Like anytime you guys are saving or once a month for all invoices, you're going to do that. You're not just going to pick like the new cases, right?
Oh, okay.
And same as to like the paralegals organizing folders on Fridays, like don't just do new cases, do all your cases, please.
Is
But like
ops
the
aligned?
structure
Correct,
is only
correct.
going to be
Okay.
for cases opened on or after June 1st.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, we're so
And I-
glad that there are any questions. Hopefully we're not just like shocking you with this.
I know, and I'd like to add to everything the team has said that, so the form is gonna be reviewed twice a year. It's gonna be reviewed in June, right now that we're opening it, and then again in December. The idea is that we're gonna look at the overarching comments and see how they impact the entire structure. Just keep that in mind.
Okay. Well, on that note, on behalf of all of us, thank you so much to the team that put this together. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you for working on the business, not just in the business, as our dear business coach would say. And with that, I think we are done. Lori, anything we're missing? No? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks,
And these will
everyone.
be saved in SharePoint.
Okay, perfect. And congrats, Ariel, for your award. That's huge. You should let Chrissy know.